I'm sure that for most people, the title of this story immediately draws a big question mark. For many in the West, Israel is an inconvenient problem that needs to be settled, and quickly. For obvious reasons, they want to force a solution upon Israel that heavily favors the Palestinians and oil-producing Muslim states. The majority of the world believes that Israel is a usurper that should have never been allowed to take Palestinian land and create a state on it. You know, I talk a great deal about this issue in my book, The Everlasting Hatred, The Roots of Jihad. The barefaced fact is that in the 19th and early 20th centuries, there were no such things as Palestinian people or state. Until British General Sir Edmund Allenby liberated the area from the Ottoman Turks in 1917, the land later dubbed Palestine was just a southern province of Syria. The Ottomans had ruled all of the Middle East for approximately 400 years. They wiped out almost all states and boundaries and reconstructed them as territories of the empire. It was under these conditions that the Jews began fleeing Europe's persecutions in ghettos in the late 19th century. Later, survivors of World War II and the Nazi death camps fled to the Middle East and joined them. The Jews arrived to find a barren and forsaken land with very few inhabitants. The people who lived there were not recognized by the Muslim tribes as a distinct people. They were basically a hodgepodge of various Muslims who came looking for work. The surrounding Muslim tribes and nations showed little interest in either them or the virtual lifeless land until the number of Jews became a significant factor there. They bought land that no one wanted and made it fertile and productive. The Jews became so successful that the inevitable jealousy set in and Jihad was declared under the battle cry, "The Jews have stolen our land." Today, the State of Israel is the focal point of Islamic hatred and the rallying point for the Jihad against the Judeo-Christian Western world. In a recent speech reported by the Israeli magazine Israel Today, Geert Wilders, a member of parliament in the Netherlands, described the present situation very clearly. He said that Israel is so targeted for hatred and violence because it is situated on the fault line of jihad, and not because of the so-called occupation. If there would have been no Israel, Islamic imperialism would have found other places to release its energy and its desire for conquest. Therefore, the war against Israel is not a war against Israel. It is a war against the West. It is jihad. In this way, Wilders said Israel forms a sort of a bulwark against an Islamic onslaught on the rest of the Judeo-Christian world, and for that, everyone in the West should be eternally grateful to Israel. Today, most of Islam's energies are consumed with destroying Israel. But if they accomplish that, their full fury will be turned on the West. In his remarks, Wilders expressed something that I have always sought to bring out. He is alarmed at the naivete of Europeans and Americans. They have failed to grasp that all Islam is radical at its core. He said, the Islamic ideology does not seek cooperation or assimilation, but aims for submission and dominance over non-Muslims. There's no moderate Islam. There will never be a moderate Islam. There might be moderate people who call themselves Muslim, but there's no moderate Islam. Wilders warned that even those Muslims who do not use bombs are still interested in world subjection to Islam. They're cleverly using our laws and political systems to conform our culture and religion to theirs. The worst mistake the Western world is making is thinking that Muslims will adapt to the 21st century and become integrated into our Western culture. The core of the Quran's teaching is wrapped around the culture in which it was created. If you change that culture, you destroy the Muslim religion. Therefore, Islam will always resist changes to the culture. That's why our attempts to make Muslim nations into democracies are doomed to failure. The Quran teaches something entirely different and will not allow it. So Israel will always be abhorrent to Muslims. They continue to focus their main attacks against the West upon Israel. If there were no Israel, the Jihad would be entirely focused on America and Europe. The Bible predicted that Israel would become the lightning rod for world conflict, and so it has. Time is running out for the world. God's predicted end for all of this is the War of Armageddon that will so explode across the planet that only the return of the Messiah, the Lord Jesus, will be able to stop it. You know, it's getting ever closer.